Ian,
Trying to cook me.
the PS5 is loose. The juice is loose.
As a, well, 2 days. 2 days it comes out. Comes out on the 12th.
Oh, everyone has it already, though.
Yeah, I mean, there's review units all over the place.
And then the Xbox is what?
Today, I think.
Today?
Yeah.
So the PS5 is getting reviewed everywhere. I saw a Burger King commercial. They're giving it away. They give someone a big burger and it's like, oh, you want a PS5, and people are going nuts. You see that commercial?
No.
So we're at the next gen right now with the PlayStation, and we have a lot of people coming out with reviews for this thing. Have you read a lot of reviews?
I have not. I mean, but everyone seems to be fair. I haven't read a lot of them, but the general consensus that I read has been positive so far. Games are loading faster. The menu system seems fine.
That was a big thing I saw. The loading times were like cut in half or even more sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, both of what I've seen on the Xbox and on the PlayStation 5 has been really promising in that regards. Especially with, I mean, they're mostly playing old games right now. The previous generation games on it, so it's easy for them to do the comparison between, say, a PS4 and a PS5 or an Xbox One and an Xbox Series. Fucking dumb names.
You don't like the Series X or Series S or?
I've already whined about it. But yeah, it's interesting. It's nice to see that. It's going to be the PlayStation 5 will have some truly next gen stuff, coming out. And it'll be nice to see how well that runs. It'll be a while before we see anything fairly unique on the Xbox.
It's been a while.
Oh no.
It'll be a while actually.
But yeah, I mean, I'm glad people have got them if they want them and they're happy. I honestly probably will not end up with any of these until sometime next year.
It's going to be hard to get them for the first. Yeah, that's the first part of this. But also, it's like, is there a rush to get a lot of these right now? I mean, is there really a rush? If most of these games you can play already, So I mean,
I could be. I mean, it's kind of expensive for an impulse purchase.
What was it, $500 to the PS5?
Yeah, it's $500.
$500 for the standard one.
But I almost kind of wanted to try to find one this week just so I'd have something to freaking talk about for the rest of the year on the podcast. But there's just nothing coming out at launch that seems like something that I would need to have. I want to play the Demon's Souls remake, but I don't like need to be the first person to do it. So
here's a chart. We're going to discuss this article here, but before we get into it, there's a chart of the loading times of PS5 versus PS4 here. Because as of right now, but before the exclusives come out that actually use this technology, this is what you're getting out of this, right? So some are significant, some are not. I'm looking at it surprisingly. So like Assassin's Creed Odyssey, cut down from 170 seconds to load it. That's 3 minutes it takes to load the game to 108. So that's a drop of like 30%, 40%, something like that. Red Dead Redemption 2, 142 seconds. So that's like 2.5 minutes down to a minute 20. So that's like that's almost cut in half right there. Some are insignificant. There's one from, let's see, 79. Ghost of Tsushima is 79 to 61. So that's a small little drop, but not huge. So that's what you're getting out of this right now. You get the solid state drive getting you quicker loading into the games. I had no idea some of these games took 3 minutes to load. I had no clue that like something like Borderlands 3 took 3 minutes to load up. Holy crap! What do you just grab a cup of coffee while you wait? You click. No idea.
That's what you use your phone for. That's why we all have zero attention span, because
you can move on to something else.
You immediately just pick up something else.
So this article is from Kotaku, Australia. That a few people sent this to us about that. It's about talk about the frame rate. Look at Miles Morales. It's fantastic. It's performing very well. And then people are saying, Pat, read the last. Oh, real quick, the controller. People are liking this controller, this DualSense controller.
Yeah, yeah. People seem to be pretty big on it.
That they seem to be really cool. That it's got the DualSense, so the vibration and haptic feedback is a little bit better this time about.
Yeah, I heard like the triggers do fun stuff and things like that. I'm still not sold on the look of the controller, but if it's comfortable, I mean, I'll be fine.
The look?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's the same standard layout, right? I mean,
yeah, it's a little bit bigger and rounder, which I think is going to be beneficial for it. I just don't like the weird white and black. I'm simply purely talking about aesthetics. I don't like the way it looks.
Oh, okay. You don't want to get your Cheeto cheese on the whiteness there?
I try to avoid Cheetos when I'm playing games.
But does the PS5 really matter? So this is why some people sent this article, is that the reviewer here, and his name is Ian Walker. What's with Ian's writing articles like this? Anyway, Ian from The Atlantic wrote that really bad Nintendo article a few years ago when you weren't on the podcast, asking, does a PS5 really matter? So the article shifts from talking about the PS5 and reviewing it to talking about reasons not to be excited about the PS5. It talks about COVID-19, Americans being out of work, talking about the election stuff happening, and a new old white man becoming the president and things like that. And this is why people brought this to my attention, because they were like, this is what is this part of the review? What are you doing here? And I can see why you would bring this up in a console review, but at the same time, I don't know what part of your audience is here to read that part of a PS5 review. And that's with any entertainment. It's like when you're focusing on entertainment medium or product, you're there for a specific reason. And this isn't me trying to, bad. It's easy to bash Kotaku. It really is, especially in the past 7-8 months when 3 or 4 really good journalists have left, and it's already seemingly gone back to the shitter really quickly. Kotaku for a lot of people, but we understand that right now the world pretty much sucks in general. I understand that. I think Ian gets that. We're in a rough spot with a lot of things this year, right now. It's sort of like the understood. You don't have to say it back to us. So to a lot of people, obviously, entertainment's an escape. It's a way to take your mind off things. That's a reason why Ian said that video games this year it's blowing wide open.
Yeah,
people need the escape, or we go fucking nuts if we have to be constantly redirected back to reality. And I think that's why people have a problem with this, is that it's understood, and at this point, you're telling me a reason not to be excited for something that I'm reading about. The only reason I'm at the article is because I'm excited about it. Now you're telling me not to be excited about it, and it truly is pretentious. I don't want to take personal shots at this person, but I'm going to say to the writer that if you really feel like this is not to be something to be excited about, ask someone else to write the article for you and don't review it. Don't accept the free console that you are going to get reviewed in. This isn't like shut up and game sort of thing, but it's really spun out in a direction here that I'm just like, man, okay, this is the example when people say, get this shit out of the coverage. Like, this is like the prime example when I see it, because most of the time it's like, yeah, it has something to do with it. This has nothing to do with covering the PS5 to me. Absolutely nothing.
I mean, my take on it goes a couple different places. I read it and I see something like this, and I try to understand where the person's coming from. And I think that there was probably some, they've spent a week, 2 weeks, however many weeks reviewing this system, playing with the hottest new toy, trying out new games, and as is their job. And I think that there is probably I want to give the person the benefit of the doubt. And I think that where this part originally came from was perhaps a tinge of their own guilt.
Oh, it definitely is when you read it, yeah.
Realizing that, okay, this is what I'm doing, and not everyone can do this, and I'm in this position where I can, and that's great. But you need to make sure that your self-flagellation does not turn into attacking the people who are reading your very article for feeling excited about something.
Sure.
$500 is not cheap by any means, but it's also not so enormously expensive that it's out of the reach for any number of people who have been looking forward to this, saving for it, and planning for it. As you've said, we all need our escapes right now, and we absolutely do. And people will argue me, but I don't think there's necessarily a problem with, if you have taken the time to save up the money, you're allowed, you don't have to live in misery just because things are miserable. You're allowed to buy yourself something nice. You're allowed to buy something that is going to keep your mental health up and going. If this is your hobby, it's like I'm not rich. I don't know if I'm going to have hours at my job next week because cases are going up in San Diego, but I still buy records because when I'm at home, I don't want to be stewing in misery. I buy something to listen to because it makes me happy, and it's in my budget to be able to do such a thing. And I feel like that's unfortunately how this is being read. It started off as sort of wow, I think, I'm a little lucky I've been able to play this, but then you go off and you just list all these reasons why people shouldn't be excited about it, and it's taking the fire out of maybe one of the few things that a lot of people are looking forward to this year. And it's not just PS5, it can be PS5, it can be Xbox One, but I think it can be, what I'm saying can be applied to the purchase of anything during a crisis. We don't need to just survive. We're allowed to try to enjoy our life. This is not the Kardashians bragging about how they went to a private island.
Oh, how their private party?
To have a private party so they could pretend things were normal for once in their life when they're living, I'm sure, a very fine, normal, rich existence.
Sure.
This isn't that. This is someone going out and buying a
video game console.
A video game
which
console.
we've done for 40 years.
Right. And yes, it's expensive, and yes, there are people right now who are suffering and don't have the money, and it sucks. But at the same point in time, don't rain on someone's parade. There are plenty of people who aren't made of money who are buying this, and they're buying it because they know it's going to provide them some respite. Yeah,
the whole does it really matter argument is like, well, no, if you want to reduce things to it, me and Ian can be wearing potato sacks right now for clothes instead of having...
No, if you want to reduce it, none of the shit we're talking about matters. I mean, but that's the problem. You get into that sort of reductiveness, and suddenly you are left very, very miserable because you realize, shit, none of it really matters.
This gets into a sociological conversation or psychology, but this is how I try to live my life, or say, you control what you control to the extent you can control it. And then, yes, you can think about other things, but you cannot let it drive your existence. It does. You're not. It's the amount of thought you're putting into it has to be proportional, at least at some point, to what you can give back towards that. If not, you're going to be miserable for the sake of being miserable. You can acknowledge things that are bad without making those things that exist miserable to your daily life, because at the end of the day, that's not going to change anything. You just acting more miserable. So when I see things like this, I also think about perspective when it comes to this, because yes, things are not peachy right now overall. They've been a lot worse in the past for a lot of other people, though. During the Depression, when unemployment was ridiculous, people were still trying to have fun and do things. During World War II, when literally there's lists in towns of people in World War II where the people went off to war and never came back. Like every town in America, lots of people died from World War II. And during World War II, though, they still had movies, they still had sports. People still try to get by, even though it was a really bad time then. So, it's what this comes down to is that this got through the editorial process, though. This was deemed okay. If I was the editor and saw this, I'd be like, okay, what is this? And so when I see people take shots at Kotaku, this is like the prime example. It's like, this is it. And so that's all I'm going to say. This is going to be a whole Kotaku rant. But yeah, it's really weird to see something like this. If you really feel like this, you shouldn't be writing about video games. You shouldn't be accepting the free $500 console if you feel guilty about it. Like, you're not going to transfer your guilt onto the audience necessarily, and it sounds like that's what you're trying to do. So it's just fucking weird.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not the right. If you felt like addressing it is simple, I realize people aren't. Not everyone's in the position to buy this, and if you can't, you're not missing out on, a brand new world. And if you can get it, it's fun, and I'm enjoying it. You're allowed to acknowledge these feelings, but to take it into a different direction like this and go on about it for multiple paragraphs is questionable.
Yeah. Come on, Ian, not our Ian. Come on, Ian. You got a PS5. Tons of people will be dying to get a PS5. They won't be able to get it this holiday season because they don't have the money or they just can't find it. Be happy. You're right. You're writing about a console for a living here. That's fantastic that you can do that. You're living the dream there, buddy. Things will get better in the world a little bit, but at the same time, the world's never going to be perfect. So if you really want to get technical, there's always going to be shit going on in the world until the world is gone. That if you really want to drill down and focus on, you can never be truly happy. I mean, that's what it comes down to.